In my opinion, time is a unit of measure that it is used to keep trace of the events that are happening, the events that will happen and the events that have already happened. It is known that human mind lives in the past because what we see, what we smell, what we feel, what we hear and what we taste is not perceived in an instant. There is an interval of 0.00 and so on seconds by the time our brain perceives what he receives from all our five senses. So isn't it a weird sensation to know that people don't ever live in the moment? So, I must ask, is time for real? We all know that time is a notion invented by people and it was conceived thousands of years ago. Maybe even more. It is said that time does not flow, but we flow through time, because our planet, Earth, is revolving around the Sun. People called a complete rotation a year. And because Earth is spinning around its central axis, a complete spin was called a day. And so a year was divided in 365 days, a day was divided in 24 hours and so on. Why not 20 hours per day? Well, I hope they had a good reason. Our planet was also divided in time zones through the well-known meridians, a curved line that unites the North and the South Poles. So the meridian that goes through Greenwich, in England, was called the zero meridian. If you go west, the time will decrease by an hour for each meridian, but if you go east, the time will increase by an hour for each meridian. So there are minus 12 hours by the west side of the zero meridian and plus 12 hours by the east side of the zero meridian. People did this time zones only because the Earth spins and because the Sun rises at different times in each time zone. So that must be a good reason, or is it? We know that there is 5 hours difference between the time zones of London, United Kingdom, and New York, USA. If you would take a supersonic plane from London at 11 p.m. on 1st December and fly to New York in 5 hours, you will get to New York and it would still be 11 p.m. on 1st December. So it is like you didn't waste any time at all. Does this make sense? You travel for 5 hours and still that time is the same. But if we fly this distance from London to New York in less than 5 hours, let's say in 4.5 hours, this would mean that you just got back in time and recovered 30 minutes. Let's say that people can accept that too and not consider this time traveling and that is just a matter of time zones. Then, what if our plane wouldn't stop in New York and keep flying around the Earth and gets to London again in 24 hours? It would still be the same time, 11 p.m. on 1st December, or 11 p.m. on 2nd of December, and again. If we fly this distance around the Earth in less than 24 hours, it would mean that we went back in time, or just got in London the next day before 11 p.m. I believe this is the moment when time starts to not make sense anymore. That is why I consider that time is not real, or at least time zones should have never been created. If you still consider that my words are out of discussion, then let's bring in discussion another problem. As closer you get to the poles, as shorter is the distance between two time zones, isn't it? But what if you were exactly in the center of the North Pole, for example? Would this mean that you are simultaneously sitting in all the time zones, or you are just sitting in a zone that has no time zone at all? Is the center of the poles a zone where the time doesn't exist? Maybe, or maybe not. Because time is not for real, or it wasn't well perceived by our minds. If you look out of the box, if you were in the empty space with no planet around you, how could you say what time it is? If there was nothing spinning or revolving, how could you find a way to measure time? Besides carrying a watch, believe what you can, that time is for real or not. But there is no truth because everyone has his own truth.